Hey friend, welcome back to the Amplify podcast. I'm Andy Jenkins, and we are going to wrap up today this mini series on how to create a framework. And the odd thing about it is I've just used a framework to show you how to create your own framework. Okay, so if you don't understand that, go back and listen to the previous two episodes and then roll right into this one, because this one's really not going to make a whole lot of sense unless you've already been to those two previous trainings, episodes, podcast drops. Let me give you just a snapshot so you can put it in your mind of what to listen for today. Now, remember, a framework is the way you organize your content in such a way that you show people very clearly where you are taking them. You highlight the problem you solve, the untapped potential you're going to lead them towards, and you give them a clear step-by-step process. We call that the path forward, with these little progress points along the way. And also you help them dodge all the pits, the pitfalls, the unique challenges that you know, because you're the expert and have done this so many times, that they're going to step into. So we go ahead and let them know about the potholes, just so they're not surprised and they've got a plan to overcome, rather than get frustrated and quit while they're making forward progress. All right, today, here's what I want you to listen for. There are two types of frameworks, two categories. I'm going to break them down and explain them. So let me just tell you what they are, and then we'll define them in this training. You can go with option number one. You can go with really something that is a linear framework, meaning you got to do step one, and then you do step two, and then you do step three, and then four, and then five. You do them in order. Or you can do something that is more of a cohesive, it's kind of a cluster. You hit them all when you hit them, when you need to hit them, because they all kind of interlock and interact. All right, so I'm going to give you some good names on how to understand those. I'm going to give you a specific order so you'll know, hey, which one do you do? Which one works best for you? The common thread on both of these, again, is you solve a problem, you lead people to their potential, you give them a direct path to get there, and you highlight, again, the progress points along the way so they know they're making forward momentum. And you highlight some of the pitfalls and potholes so that they just expect, okay, there's some challenges all the time. No plan is perfect. Just anticipate the trouble and then have a plan to move on through. All right. As always, take a look at the show notes down below. I've got some, I just called them next best steps for you if you want to continue moving forward from here. And I'll just give you a heads up. In the next episode, I'm going to do another mini series, and it's really going to start talking about how do I get paid for what I know? I've got the framework. Now what? Okay, here's the training. I'll talk to you soon. So to catch up here and just do a fast review, we're talking about how to architect your framework. That is really the first step in getting paid for what you know, which is an ABCD process outlined in another module. So we've got to articulate and tell people what that framework is, which really means we've got to architect it first. So we've defined a framework and dialogued about what exactly a framework is. We talked about it's not just information, it is a process of transformation. And after that, we really walked into part number two here, which is the framework includes 4 elements. And that led us very quickly into point 3, which was the 5th element that you should also consider. So the 4 are, you have the potential you lead people to, you got the problem you're solving. So those are connected by a path, and that path has progress points. And I said here in number 3, it's helpful if you also clarify some of the pitfalls that they're likely to encounter, which was illustrated here by the poop emoji. And now we want a dialogue of two different kinds of frameworks you can create. And then I want to show you some examples. So let me tell you the two kinds very quickly, and then I'll outline a couple of examples. So option number one of two is you can use an inclusive type of framework. These are just words that we've made up. You might come up with another word, another element here, but the descriptor basically says they work through each aspect of your framework concurrently at the same time. Option number two is a linear framework, and that means they have to do it in a specific order because you can't really do step two until you have step one. You can't do step four until you have step three, which is necessitated by step two. And so it really requires a sequence like a 101, 201, 301, 401 type of thing. Let me break these down for you and just illustrate the two differences, because you can really tackle this either way you want. The goal, though, or the primary factor is I really think that you've got to highlight the potential. That's going to be consistent. The problem, that's going to be consistent. The path is going to be consistent. Really, right here, we're talking about that path and the progress points on that path, whether you got to hit those progress points, those milestones in a specific order or any order. Okay, so example number one of an inclusive, meaning you can do it in any way you want to, is the Gear Up. This is a coaching module that we have that helps nonprofits and churches gain and sustain momentum. It is a messaging framework. It helps them to grow. It really involves every part of organizational health. There are 5 aspects to it. So 5 of those milestones, 5 of those check marks in order to grow a healthy nonprofit or grow a healthy church. Okay, so that's the potential that we're leading you to. So here's what you got to have. You need to have a path or a program in the Gear Up. So that is really, if you're in a church, that's the discipleship framework. If you're in a nonprofit and you're transforming lives, what is the deliverable and how do people follow that? So when I was working in a recovery center, we had a definite path that people walk through in order to rehabilitate, put themselves back together, come out of prison, don't have a job, got to get their ID, and then we've got to get a job, and then we've got to save some money, we've got to get some clean time. All these things were outlined. Got to get rid of the warrants, old legal issues. All those were outlined in that path or program. If you're in a church, what do people do? What does a fully developed disciple look like on the end? And what are the steps people take? What are the classes or programs or processes that people walk through that facilitate that? That is aspect, milestone, checkpoint number one in Gear Up. Number two is people. This is making sure that you've got all the processes written down for people, for volunteers, for staff alike. What are the job descriptions? What do they do? How do they sign up to join your mission? How do they get involved? All of that. Who are the people and what do those people do? So right there, it's really how do they join, and then what they do, clearly written job descriptions, processes. What are the systems that help you focus on people? So what are the recurring projects, calendar issues, online issues, other concerns? What are the repeating tasks that you just need to write down how it gets done, where it gets done, when it gets done? Number 4 is place. So that's the environment, that's the culture that you set. It's the tone. You might think about this one. The mission of Chick-fil-A and the mission of KFC, they both, I'm being very simplistic here, they both serve chicken. But if you walk into a Chick-fil-A, it is a radically different environment than walking into a KFC. I'm not evaluating that. I'm not saying one's better. I'm not saying one's worse. I'm saying they are different. So what is the tone? What is the culture? What is the environment that you set? And then finally, purse. That has to do with the finances. What are the financial procedures? What are the budgeting policies? What are the requisition forms. How do people give money? How do they request money? What can they? What's the latitude if they're on staff or if they're volunteer? How does all that work together? All of these really are inclusive because you can do them all at the same time. And you know as well as I do, by the time you're in any organization, as soon as you get one of these dialed in, and then you move it and start working on another, you're like, oh man, we got to go back to the other one and start doing that again. So this is really a constant, and we have them as gears because any single one of these can hinder growth in another area, and then it just kind of locks down the whole organization. So in the same way that any little cog in the motor of your car can keep that entire car from moving forward, finances in a church or nonprofit can really hinder the mission. That's the path or program. Not having a mission or path or program is really going to hinder the people that will sign up to help you and the people that you can serve. Having a bad place, a bad tone, bad culture, bad environment, that's going to limit all. So all of these are important is what we're getting at. It is an option one inclusive type of framework. Now notice when you get in there, people know exactly what to do to build a healthy organization. We've broken it all down, but it's not all in a specific order. My friends, Dave and Troy, have an organization called ULA. And what they do, ULA, from the French word la, which means everything is in harmony. They talk about a balanced life. So they say there are 7 key areas in life. Here they are going all the way around. Fitness, you've got finance, family, field, that's your career, that's where you work, faith, friends, and fun. And they teach, hey, to get life really working, man, you got to work on all of these because this is a car wheel, but if you could think of it like a bicycle wheel, the spokes, man, you knock out one spoke, you might be okay. You knock out two, pretty soon the tire just goes wonky. It hinders your progress in every area. And so really what you do in your health affects how things go in your career and how things are going at home, family, that affects your work and how things are going financially. Oh, that can put stress on fun and friends. It's all connected. It's an inclusive type of framework. Here's another example. This is our friend Kay. She has an organization, Women at the Gate. It is a sisterhood of kingdom-driven business builders, mom bosses, creatives, and visionaries. Here is what she does. She teaches all of the lessons that she's learned over, oh goodness, decades and decades and decades of being a serial entrepreneur. I mean, she's run plant shops, tea rooms. Her husband and her owned a pharmacy, gift shops, all kinds of things. And she teaches those lessons so that any woman, and men will benefit from this too, but really her niche is the ladies. They follow this framework. It helps them apply the lessons that she's learned. Now, you look at this, let's just kind of walk through it, presence and power. So there's a spiritual element to this. You look over at the principles of kingdom business. So she's got 3 of those principles. Personal growth on the left. She's saying, hey, if you're not healthy, that will hinder everything else that's going on. Promotion and marketing. You got to tell people what you do, how you do it, how they can transact business with you. And then you've got some professional requirements. You've got to have the right LLC. You got to have the taxes. You got to have certain things set up, financial and banking. So this is something that, again, kingdom driven business builders can walk into. Now, notice all 3 of these illustrations, they are not linear. They are inclusive. So you can do them in any order whatsoever, meaning concurrently. You work on them at the same time. All right, let's move to the next one. Linear. Linear means you do it in a specific order, and generally, when you finish one, you're done. You just move to the next. Let me give you one of the most famous examples of all, and then I'll give you an example of someone that we've worked with. Dave Ramsey has what is called the Total Money Makeover. Now, he has 7 baby steps. That's what he calls them, to financial peace. 7 steps, baby steps to financial peace. They are And notice these are all objective in nature. And people, as we talked about in a previous area of this training, they all celebrate these milestones. You can hear them on his radio programs. They would get on and squeal and shout and have this excitement. And they would do it at all of these. At each one, there would be celebration. Now notice, step number one, you save $1,000 in an emergency fund. So you got to have that. And once you do that, you start paying off your debt via the snowball. But you save the $1,000 first so that if you're paying off your debt and then something happens, the fridge breaks, car needs repair, you don't have to go into more debt. And you're like, oh, now we're losing ground. No, you save it first. Number three, you put 3 to 6 months in your emergency fund. Number four, you start putting 15% to retirement. Number five, college fund. Six, pay off your house. Seventh, after all that, you build wealth and gift. Now, notice, and you might disagree on the order of this. This is his. But notice, you either have it done or you don't. And once you get to that milestone, you move forward. Now, notice a lot of people probably come into this and they're like, oh, well, I've already got $1,000 at the bank. I almost have my debt paid off, so that's going to be easy. I've got 36 months in the emergency fund. My debt's not paid. Like, notice wherever you come in, if you've already got it done, you just kind of check it off and move to the next one. And so people might take longer at each of these than others. In a coaching module that we have that is titled, I believe, How to Coach Your Framework in Such a Way That Your Clients Make Real Progress, we talk about what do you do in these gaps and how do you like even break the gap to gap, the step 1 to step 2 down for people so that they don't get lost and they continue seeing progress when some of that takes them more time. But this is a linear framework. It takes people on a journey that's one foot after the other, after the other, after the other. Here is another example. Our friends Rob and Shannon Malcolm, we've worked with them. The Rise Up Renovation Empire, they used to be homeless drug addicts and in and out of rehab, in and out of jail. Rob worked with me for about 3 years after he got clean. It's been, over a decade ago now. And I've just seen them transform. They have been a part of 1,200 plus real estate transactions. They have now own a successful branch of Exit Realty. Exit Realty Birmingham is their franchise. They have a renovation business that has flipped over 300 homes as of the recording of this. And Rob, in the last year, started coaching people how to do what he has done. And this is the framework to build your own renovation empire. You find the house, you got to fund the house, you fix it up, you flaunt it or market it, and then you flip it and reinvest as you find another one, fund it, fix it, flaunt it, flip it after you market it back to, now you notice some of these are going to start to blur, but it is, for the most part, a linear framework. Each house follows this same protocol. In Amplify, we talk about how to write a book. Here's how you write a book. Number one, 3 steps. You aggregate. You get all the information together from everywhere you have it, whether it is, and you'll see these steps, whether you've got it from number 6, a podcast, or you've taught it number 8 in a course, or 4, it's in a workbook, or 3, it's on a website or a blog, or 2, social media clips. I've written entire books off social media posts. Number 1, if it's notes that you have on outline, it's number 5, talk or series of talks. You get all of that, whether it is typed, whether it looks pretty, whether it's on the back of a napkin, whether it is in your head and you got to put it on paper first, you aggregate it. At that point, it doesn't really look good. It's kind of, we call it the equivalent of dumping the box of Legos to see what you've even gotten, and you start sorting. Once you sort it, number 2, you assemble it, you start organizing it in various ways. This is when the book really starts taking shape, and this is what leads you up to a draft. I tell people a lot of times you start with an outline, and in the process of assembling, you end up reassembling and reassembling, and the outline that you end up with doesn't look a whole lot like the outline you began with, even though the one you begin with is necessary to get the start. You come out with a better result because of all of that work. And then finally, you amplify it. You share that message with the world. That's part of your book launch timeline, even before the book is released. Okay, so we write all of that down. It's also kind of a linear framework. If you're looking on the screen right here, how do you repurpose all of your content? Once you have your framework articulated in any form of this content, it is a matter of not coming up with new stuff. Yeah, there are going to be some ancillary ideas you're going to come up with from time to time, but you continue repurposing it. Let me give you another example of a linear framework. We've been working with some guys out of the Niceville, Florida area. That's just right down the street from Destin. So you probably know where Destin is, on the beach. Junto Tribe Ministries. A lot of these guys are military guys or train military guys. One of the guys that leads this, Mike, trains Navy SEALs and Green Berets, Special Forces. Here is their framework. Now, they are teaching primarily men, but as they've opened up groups for married couples, now it's verging into women. And I encourage them. I said, man, y'all need to keep your military language because so many of you, and in that community, so many military families. So here's what we came up with for them. Mike had a book about identity, and some of the language they use is area of operations. So what we did is we connected these two and said, wait, okay, the first step is to discover who you are. What is your identity? And now we're gonna define our area of responsibility. In the military, you've got an area that you're responsible for. That's called your area of operations. And then military personnel, when they spin up, when they go on a mission, it is called deploying. That's kind of when you go active. You're live right then. You're not sitting on the base anymore. You're not being trained. You are deployed. So discover who you are, define your area of operations. Your identity never changes. Your area of operations may. The area of operations may even look different, even if it's the same as someone else. So it is very different parenting adult children than it is parenting elementary aged children. Your area of operations for your family, it shifts. Work shifts. Okay, so but identity stays the same. You always do it under the Lord. So there it is. Discover who you are. That's the foundation. Define your area of operations, which is adjusting. Oh, what does that look like as I deploy that area of operations unto the Lord? And the area of operations, I mean, they're talking a lot like, this is kind of where it starts getting a little bit inclusive. They're talking about your health. They're talking about your work. They're talking about, this is from the ULA stuff, fun. They're talking about friendships, relationships, your family, your marriage, your kids, all of those. But it is a linear framework. Discover, define, and deploy. Okay, so now you know what a framework is. You know the elements that are involved in putting it together, 4, possibly 5. You know 2 different ways it can go, whether it's, going to be inclusive, you do it all at the same time, or linear, step 1, step 2, step 3. Let me give you 2 common threads with all of the frameworks, okay? 2 common threads with all of them, regardless of what they look like. 2 common threads. Thread number 1, it is not just information. Not just information. All of those that we just looked at, not just information. Now, the framework includes great information. The information, it's vital, it's necessary, but you lead people to apply the information and get quantifiable results. There is an element of transformation. Now, this is where, honestly, I'm not going to call it the breakdown. I'm going to call it the gap with a lot of incredible content creators happens to be when many of the people that we help come to us, they've got the information. What they don't have is this step-by-step process to take that information and then articulate it in such a way that people get the quantifiable results. And so I'm saying that because you may have the information right now. Be sure you just take it a step farther. And how do people apply this? That leads me to this next common thread. The framework is not just information, it's not just about learning. Transformation is the goal. And so when somebody comes to you and they walk through that framework, they leave where they are and they move closer to where they're designed to be. So they don't stay the same. There is a transformation that occurs. It's not just about amassing information, it's about applying the information. It's not just about learning, it's about transforming. That is the common thread. All right, so let's review what we've learned so far. You know what a framework is. You now know the 4 elements that are in every framework. And then I gave you that something more to consider, which is you might want to not just highlight the 4 elements of, of the potential, of the problem they're facing, of the path to overcome that problem and get to the potential, and of the progress points along the way. You might also, number 3, you might want to consider, this was number 5 out of 4, the pits. You know, that little poop emoji. What's the stuff everybody's going to step into? Go ahead and let them know so they anticipate it. And then I gave you 2 kinds of frameworks, and I outlined some examples. I gave you the common threads, which all center on transformation. Let's do a visual review. Okay, so this is going to be hard if you are sitting there listening, but I think you could still grasp it. I'll describe it. Slide number 1 right here. You got a person on the left side of the screen, and they want to be way over there on the right side at the potential. That's where they've dreamed of being. That's where they're designed by God to be. That's where they're destined to be if they take the right steps and do the work that you've outlined for them in your path. But they've got these problems, they've got these pain points, they've got these pitfalls right there. By the way, if you look at the sales page training and some of the other web page trainings that we have in Amplify Pro, it will highlight how to articulate those problem areas on your sales page, just really to let them know, hey, this person, this thought leader really knows what they're talking about. They can take me on that journey. Now, you got this big gap to overcome. It's the gap between where they are and where they want to be. So you, the expert, outline not just information, but information that is articulated in the form of a framework that builds a bridge to move them from where they are to where they dream of being. By the way, remember all of those frameworks I showed you earlier, they were illustrated. Like they had graphics, not crazy ones, just very simple, because that whole idea that a picture is worth 1,000 words, if I can just see, like you might remember Kay's Women Business Builders. It's a flower, 5 petals on that flower. You might remember the Ula Lil. Oh yeah, I got to keep all the spokes going for this to make forward progress. You might remember the one there with the gears. Oh yeah, if any one of them stops, it grinds the whole thing to a halt, no matter how strong the other gears are. I think if you can design not just the language, but some imagery, it helps. Next slide. You've taken that path, that framework, and you have broken it down into progress points along the way that people can see. Now, let me remind you, these progress points, they can be linear. You got to do 1, 2, 3, 4 in order, or they can be inclusive where you just tackle them however they present themselves and however they come. Whatever the case, when people follow that framework, they celebrate these progress points because they do help them make forward movement and gain ground across the destination of where they are to where they want to be. And finally, for the average person who is qualified for your product or program, if they follow the steps, they will make it there. There are really three broad ways that we can help you. Number one is some people come to us and they say, what I need is really just content or information. Whether it comes in the form of a book or a mini course or a full-blown masterclass, mega type course with downloads and worksheets and all of those. So a little bit of information or a lot of information, we can help you in that lane. That means you're really wanting to publish a book or create a course or amplify your message or learn about the systems and processes that we use, understand how the publishing game, the messaging, dialing in your message works, but you really think, hey, if I have the information, I can do it. And so if we can serve you in that level and you just need the content, that's something that we can do. If you are in a second group of people, some people say, well, I really prefer coaching and interaction. I want somebody to walk with me through the process. Now, when we do that, coaching, we always provide you with information and content, but we start a different sort of relationship to where we interact, whether that's a group coaching community that's larger and open to a lot of people, or whether it's a more unique small group mastermind or even one-to-one coaching. We can serve you at that level and we can give you the content and walk with you. And then there's a third group of people that say, hey, I don't necessarily just need the information or the coaching and the interaction. I actually want to engage you to implement this for me. I want to talk about contracting you, whether it's to ghostwrite my book, or it's to advise on a situation, or it's to help me build out a scenario or a framework or whatever it is that you might feel like you need. We can help you in that lane as well. So whether it's, again, just to repeat, number one, content and information, we can do that. Or whether it's coaching and interaction, we can do that. Or that third level, really contract and implement the stuff for you. Turnkey, done for you projects, we can do that as well. Here's the best place to go. Best place is to go to the homepage of our website, and there's a button that says Start Here. And it'll take you to the bottom of the page where it just says which one of these best describes you. And so you just choose. I'm a business leader, or I'm an online marketer, or I'm new, or I'm a writer, I'm a speaker, I'm a nonprofit leader, I'm whatever it is that you are. Choose that, and then you just tell us on the next page, I prefer content and information, or I really want to talk to you about coaching and interaction, or I prefer contract, implement it, get it done for me. And whatever you decide there, it will take you to the next best step. Questions, comments, there's a button at the top that says Contact Us. We always reply, same business day. I'll talk to you soon.